Shubho Ashtami, everyone, and good afternoon, and hello, Sabyasachi Mukherjee. I am Jamal Shaikh, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to a very special episode of the India Story Continues. Now, you'll ask that just last week we signed off with the finale, yet we are back again. Why, you wonder? To answer that question in 2 words, Sabyasachi Mukherjee. If you allow me 2 more words, Sabyasachi Mukherjee said yes. The man on the screen with me today doesn't just have the power to make her bride feel the most beautiful on her wedding day. He also has the power to make a web series continue even after its grand finale. Sabya, we'll get to all your secret superpowers soon, but first, let me introduce the event we're at. The India Story is one of the country's most successful arts, culture, and design festivals, conceptualized and created by the inimitable Madhu Neotya, which takes place in Kolkata every year. On India's Independence Day this year, August 15, Madhu Neotya kicked off the India Story Continues, a series of online conversations, performances, and workshops that fed your intellect and indulged your spirit. Today, we are back with the festive edit to celebrate the pujo and all the happiness and good fortune that is to follow. And we are here with the one man who is bent on making Indian tradition into a form of luxury the world will envy. Sabyasachi Mukherjee, welcome.
Thank you, Jamal. And to all of you watching this, Shubho Vijaya. Shubho Ashtami. Sorry, I went a little ahead. Good afternoon to all of you.
Sabya, you're a proud Calcutta boy. How come you haven't been at the India Story yet? Shame on you.
You can call it difficult scheduling because every time something happened at the India Story, I was all over the place. Last time I was traveling in America for a project, and so here I am, finally.
Well, I discovered it 2 years ago, and what the India Story has actually opened up for me, Sabya, is the Calcutta Story. I have come back to Calcutta more than half a dozen times ever since I attended the India Story 2 years ago. I'm sure you'll be there soon, and I'm looking forward to that. Now over to the formal introduction, but before that, let's take a look at this small video clip.
Got to feel in heaven when my lover's near. Lord, let this moment last for another year. Though today has ended, the night's still young, I'd say. Lover, don't go away. Let it be the thing that I am longing for. Let's fly out from Manhattan to the California shore, just to watch the ships at night on the San Francisco Bay. Oh, lover, please, please stay. Don't say you have to go. Don't say you need to run. Stop stop the clock on Central Station and we can have a drink downtown. Let it be the night that I am longing for. Let's fly down south to Austin or to Ecuador, just to drink pina colada on a hot, wet summer's day. Oh, lover, please, please stay. Yeah.
They say, ladies and gentlemen, that the story of India started from Calcutta. I think the story of Indian luxury that goes to the world also begins now from Calcutta, thanks to the man who's on the screen with me. Sabya, you and I have known each other since the start of our respective careers. But we also didn't start off on the right foot. I remember shooting your then muse and very good friend Koina Mitra for the cover page of the newspaper that I worked for at Mumbai's JW Marriott. And while I don't remember exactly what transpired, I assume today that there was a creative clash of ideas. You are the perfectionist, and I'm a perfectionist as well. Maybe your idea of perfection was a little different from my idea of perfect. Then, do you remember this at all?
It was quite a long while. I don't know if Koina is watching. Hello, Koina, wherever you are. Happy to. I'm sorry, you need to remember.
I am only happy that you don't remember. Thankfully, that's water under the bridge. Over the years, Sabya, I've watched you grow into a force to reckon with. You've dressed Bollywood's best. And while we can picture some of the most beautiful actresses in your clothes, we don't identify your clothes with any one of them. That Sabyasachi identity is your own and cannot be overshadowed by the star of the season. Kudos to you for that. To celebrate 20 years in business, you flew down India's biggest fashion editors to your home in Calcutta. You sat under a tree in your yard and you played tambola with them. A few months later, when you did your big show in Mumbai, you impressed not just your harshest critics, but also gave non-fashion watchers like me a taste of the way things should be. Your clothes were great, no doubt, but your finish, Sabya, was par excellence. It was at par with the best in the world. The small styling touches may have been fleeting when seen on the ramp, but each of them was thought-rich and painstakingly deliberate. I've gone around after that show giving advice to other fashion designers and said, look at Sabyasachi's work. That's the quality we need to make Indian fashion accepted and respected in the world. My first question, Sabya, do you think Indian designer wear has not found enough of an international appeal because our clothes lack finish?
In a way, you're right, but you're not completely right, because I think you see Indian fashion needs to evolve on a global stage with a very strong Indian personality. Indian designers in this country are polarized in the sense that some people are doing clothing which is very ethnic. Some people are also doing clothing which is not inspired by India at all, but just made in India. I think it's important. Like if you look at the Belgian movement, if you look at the Japanese movement, they all came with a very strong international flavor, but with a very strong homegrown sensibility. And I think today, 5 years or 6 years or 7 years earlier, when people were very close-minded about their acceptance of fashion worldwide, one could talk about things like quality, endurance. But today, fashion has almost become very artistic. It has become an artistic expression of oneself. And I think people are opening up more and more and more to different cultures, subcultures globally. And I think one of the reasons why Indian fashion has not found a space internationally is because I think we have been a little apologetically Indian. We need to be more Indian. We can have a global voice, but it's important to have a very important identity. And today, it's not really about a national identity anymore. It's about a regional identity.
Right.
If you look at Italian designers, they don't say Valentino Italy. They say Valentino Roma, or somebody would say Firenze. So I think it's important for us to understand that because the world is accessible by everybody through a smartphone, and cookie cutter model of fashion is not going to work anymore, because you often go to different cities over a span of 3-4 months, and if you feel this sense of deja vu, because
Right.
everything you've seen in one city, you've seen in another city. So
Yes.
as the world becomes more and more narrower, because travel becomes easier,
Yes.
connect becomes easier, it's
Yes.
important for us to look for that little special extra that only travel can bring to us. And
Correct.
more, and people have always asked me a question: what about the pandemic and what after the pandemic?
Yes.
I think the good outcome of the pandemic will be that people will buy less,
Yes.
but they will buy a lot more informed. So
Right.
if you have a pair of blue jeans, you're not going to buy another pair of blue jeans, but you're going to
Right.
buy that little special extra, almost like a find
Right.
that you'll find
Right.
somewhere else.
Right.
And
Right.
connect with things which are
Yes.
handmade. People are
Yes.
understanding the importance of human relationship like
Yes.
never before. So I think
Right.
fashion will become a kinder place to be in.
Right. Well, fantastically said. Natasha Poonawalla, in a cover interview that I did for Brunch earlier this year, said she finds it quicker to purchase international designers because of the fit that fits. How many times can you keep going in for trials again and again and again? She said. Your thoughts?
Well, you see, Indian designers, most of them, at least we don't really do ready to wear. We do couture because, ready to wear is a completely different business. And also, what happens in India, every state is a country. Like, the size demographics that you would get in north of India, and the size demographics that you would get in middle of India, or the south of India, or the east of India varies. It's very
Yes.
difficult to find a standardized Indian size. And I also think that it's an issue of culture.
Right.
It's not an issue of convenience. In the
Right.
West, when you go and when you buy something,
Yes.
people are ready to accept something which is within a standardized size. In
Right.
India, the lady will always come back. Shoulder थोड़ा उठा दीजिए, sleeve
Mm.
थोड़ा छोटा कर दीजिए, waist
Right.
थोड़ा, often people
Right.
come and they would like to change the shape to a shape that is entirely their own. If you're
Right.
selling a woman will come to you and say, can I make it into a bodycon? We
Right.
do it because you see, access to tailoring, access to
Yes.
embroidery, beading has always been with us. Look at our culture of clothing. We used to buy
Right.
fabrics from the market and go to the local tailor, and we used to
Right.
say, take a picture and say, stitch this for us. I don't
Yes.
think that culture has left us. So
Right.
the Indian consumer, I think, is probably the most demanding consumer in the world because we have
Right.
access to so much. We
Yes.
only want everything tailor-made for ourselves. So to create a ready-to-wear business is very difficult.
So next time anyone says that to me, I'm going to say, you know what? It's because you are too demanding. It's the client who is most demanding. Sabya, your Tabola afternoon was great fun. But tell me the truth. Do you really like those fashion editors who sometimes critique your work without knowing what goes into the creation?
Jamal, I have spent 20 years living outside fashion. For me, when I put something in the universe, it is, I don't react to criticism because as long as I'm happy, I'm my biggest critique.
Yes.
There are times I have been in fashion shows where people have thought that I was the next best thing after the Singer sewing machine. And
Right.
I've done a really, really bad show. And I've got
Right.
rave reviews. And then I used to lock myself in my hotel room upstairs, and I used to cry because I was so ashamed of the show that I put out. And I think it is your benchmark and it's your battle with yourself that actually gives you the deserved medal or not. Uh,
Yes.
Thankfully, I have lived in fashion for 20 years without having to live inside it. So any
Right.
sort of criticism, good or bad, does not really affect me.
So, is it true, or at least partly, that Sabyasachi Mukherjee doesn't take to criticism very well?
No, that's not true. I think when people want you to react to a particular criticism, and when you give a non-reaction, people think that you're being difficult.
Right.
For me, uh, Jamal, what can you criticize about my work because it's so repetitive? I do the same thing.
Repetitive.
I do the same over and over and over again because of the fact that you see there's a difference between what I do and what is expected out of a fashion designer. My
Right.
brand does beautiful clothing,
Right.
and if you look at an Indian woman today, you ask
Yes.
any Indian middle class woman, upper middle class woman, and I grew up in
Yes.
a middle class background. It is
Right.
almost impossible for you to change the
Yes.
sleeve length of a woman's blouse sleeve, because if she's
Right.
wearing 13 and a half inches, 13 and a
Yes.
half inches is going to be, it's not going to be 14 and a half or 13. And I think that's wonderful, because India is not
Right.
consumed by fashion. Our
Right.
consumers have a lot more horse sense than people in the West.
Right.
And I think people in India are identity shoppers. When they
Right.
like something that looks good on them, like, I'll give you an
Right.
example. I wear this Chinese collar shirt as a uniform almost every day of my life, because I think this looks the best on me. Why
Yes.
invent better? And
Yes.
I think many Indian customers are very
Yes.
secure about who they are. And so I don't really have to change. So if you're expecting to criticize me for fashion or the lack of fashion, then probably you
Yes.
don't understand the brand better. That can't be my problem.
Well said, but you better watch what you say, because we have with us a surprise guest. She is now the editor in chief of one of India's leading fashion magazines, and you must guess her name. Okay, your clue number one: she wasn't at your home playing tambola that afternoon. Clue number two: she could be called the Anna Wintour of India. Can you guess who she is?
Nonita,
Second guess:
Anna Winter of India wasn't at my show.
currently wasn't at the Tambola afternoon,
Oh my God, this is
editor-in-chief of
embarrassing.
one of India's leading fashion magazines. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Priya Tanna, editor-in-chief of Vogue India. Priya
Morning,
Tanna,
Sabya.
welcome.
Yeah, why couldn't I guess Anna Winter? You tell me. And why were you not there? The first thing I thought, I think Nonita wasn't there. You were there. Why weren't you there? You're babysitting.
I was babysitting. You know me. So, hi,
And I
Jamal.
must tell you, Sabya, that Priya has actually gotten up, and early in the morning she's in Dubai and she's joined us from there. Priya, thank you for joining.
My
Uh,
pleasure, Jamal.
Wait,
Always.
you are you are
you
not
have
only the person at the helm of one of India's most prestigious fashion magazines, you're also a much loved journalist and editor. In an industry where pulling each other down is the order of the day, you're the one sane, apolitical fixture who manages to bind even the cattiest of conundrums.
and
Obviously,
and
and Sabya has something to say. Yes.
and Jamal, I'll tell you something. It's not
Yes.
an open secret. I am in
Yes.
love with Priyatanna.
Well, you're not the only one. So there are two people on the screen here
I
now.
love her. And
You know,
Priya, I think I
Jamal
like
and
to
I have
highlight.
worked for so long, and I have to say, he is truly the nicest person I have met in this industry. So, it's such a pleasure seeing both my favorite boys in the same frame.
So that's my first question. Let's keep all the diplomacy that you exercise at work aside and tell us the real truth. When you say you love Sabya, you're not being diplomatic. Tell us how much you really love him.
Jamal, I'm in another country. It's a Saturday. I haven't really showered. I have just worn clothes and applied makeup to try and look like the editor in chief of Vogue India and look that glamorous. And I never work on my weekends. So, A, that should answer all your questions as to how much I love Sabya. To be honest with you, I don't want to sound like a sycophant, but my love for Sabya started with my admiration for his mind. The sexiest thing about Sabya is that he is before I got
Priya,
to know the
Priya,
man.
okay, we're back. We're back.
I
Yes.
I got to know the designer before I got to know him as a person, and that's
Yes.
unusual. It's a different kind of a blind date. So I was
Right.
introduced to work, and of course, when the whole world was reeling from the Sabya revolution, um,
Yes.
I was also not. I wasn't immune to it either. I mean, you can't not fall in love with everything he does.
Right.
But I think what did happen is, Jamal, along the way, and this has very little to do with our journeys as me being a fashion editor or him being a
Yes.
designer. Along
Yes.
the way, I got to know him, and we've had some very, very interesting, meaningful conversations. I was privy to his mind and his thought process, and really what lies behind all of it. There is a strong sense of vision, clarity, and all of that that everybody knows. But there's also a vulnerability, the fact that he's
Yes.
often unafraid to be afraid. And I think these are the things that truly draw me to a person. And it was
Right.
then love at our 100th conversation. I mean,
Yes. Yes, that's fantastic. Priya, you've
No
watched. Sorry, we
diplomacy.
lost you there for a minute again. Yes, sorry, you want to say that again?
I promise you there is no diplomacy in this.
There is no nobody understood, coming straight from the heart. As a you're a fashion editor, but you're also a fashion critique. Now, if we were to take that personal love aside a little bit and give your impressions of Sabyasachi as a brand, Sabyasachi's career over the last 20 years, what would you say?
To be honest, I think to understand what Sabya has done to the fashion industry, one really has to have traveled the time with him, right? And here's my opinion, right? Sabya has this immense clarity and vision. But what I also love is he doesn't want to be everything to everyone. So
Right,
for me, that's first the sign of a truly great mind when you have that complete
right,
clarity and vision on
right,
what you stand for. You
right.
can criticize him, you can, like he himself criticized himself and said to you, he's repetitive. You can call him
Mm,
repetitive, you can criticize him, but he knows what he stands for, who he
right.
is. These are the poles on which he has
Yes,
truly built his career, brick by
right,
brick, show by show,
right,
outfit by outfit, collection by
right,
collection.
right.
Within those four walls, within that
Yes,
confine of who he is, which is
yes,
proudly Indian,
yes,
proudly a traditionalist, yet
yes,
unafraid to take that tradition and move into contemporary, boundaries. He he comes up with these surprises each
yes,
collection, and by
yes,
surprises they aren't large. In a sense, I'm going to draw a parallel between him and Lagerfeld. So
yes,
with Lagerfeld, you know you're going to get black white, you know you're going to get tweed, you know you're going to
right,
get the camellia, you know you're going to get pearls. And
yes,
yet, what he does season after season blows your brains. And for
right,
me, that's the experience I get when I see a Sabya show. I
right,
know what he's going to do, but I don't know how
yes,
he's going to do it and what he's going to do with it.
yes,
So the fact that he is true to who he is and yet
yes,
manages, see, creativity is easy.
right,
And we can all be creative and every season
yes,
say, let's do the wildest, most
yes,
creative, vibrant
yes,
thing we can do with our
yes,
clothes.
yes,
But
yes,
but is that who you are? And what does that
right,
say about what you want people to say about your clothes? If I see a
absolutely,
garment, I know it's a Sabya garment because it has
yes,
those signatures to it. And yet,
yes,
if I have one, it's not enough. I want one from each
yes,
season. It's another thing I
yes,
can't afford Sabyasachi Mukherjee, but I may want one of each season.
right.
That
No,
for me,
well,
his staying power. Let me
yes,
say this: his staying
yes,
power,
yes,
coupled with his clarity and vision of who he is and what he wants to be,
yes,
married with how much he innovates within those boundaries,
right.
makes his career such an admiration and such a case study. I mean, I feel India has a lot of talent, but how come it doesn't have a lot of Sabyasachis, right? And I feel,
Sabya, those are words to treasure that you must remember for a really, really long time. Thank you, Priya, for your honesty.
and I think
Priya, do
that,
you? Yes,
that's
yes,
it.
go on.
And I think that really is it for me with Sabya.
Yes, yes. Priya, do you have a question for Sabyasachi Mukherjee that you've never asked him before?
Yeah. Sabya, you've got so many things right, and all our conversations and everything aside, was there a time? Is there a regret? Is there anything you would have done differently in your career? Was there a moment when you questioned what you were doing and what this journey is, and did you ever get it wrong is what I want to know, and what did that teach you, and how did you continue to stay on?
Yeah, I wake up with a regret every morning. You know, every day when I look at my body of work that I'd seen before, I say, oh my God, I could have done this differently. And, the most, you see, what happens is that I sit in a very, very difficult position. And, it's difficult sometimes for me to explain it to people because to be in a position of influence and yet at the same time to be commercial is like playing Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. In fashion, it's almost impossible. Very, very few brands do it. So, to be able to have influence that keeps people guessing and yet at the same time to be able to churn out a lot of revenue in a country where the customer is conservative in terms of fashion. Like I said, the customer does not change. It's very difficult because the boundaries become tighter and tighter, and within those boundaries, you have to create your parameters of change. And there are times when I look at work of other designers. There are times I look at what's going on in the world, and I realize that maybe I've mistimed, or there are times when I feel that I'm falling back. But I'm very competitive. Every morning I wake up feeling that it's a new day and I need to do a better job because I don't want to be second to none. And if I know that there will be a time when I will probably be 15th or 16th, but I will still want to fight back to be number one. I mean, I might never get back there, but the fight is always there. And so I don't know if it's regret, but it's a mixture of self-awareness and that little bit of fight that I keep inside my fire that I keep inside my belly to say, okay, I want to do my best.
Sabya beautifully answered. And, Priya, a senior editor once told me years ago that in a creative person's mind, that borderline insecurity is your biggest strength. If you don't know what you're going to do and want to do a better job than yesterday, that is the biggest. Sabya, you agree?
And Jamal, I'm very secure and I'm very insecure. I'm insecure about myself. I'm not insecure about other people. I'm insecure what tomorrow if I lose my passion. What tomorrow if I don't work as hard as I did today? That's just insecurity. My assistants laugh at me. I'll give you a small anecdote. We went to all see The Devil Wears Prada. And throughout the film, everybody was giggling. So I looked at everybody, I said, concentrate on your popcorn in the film. Why are you all giggling? They said, only if Anna Wintour realized that the real devil was sitting with us. So I'm a slave driver. I work very hard. If my assistants work 15 hours a day, I will want to work 20 hours a day because I like to lead by example. They call me a durable battery. There was a time when I had excessive thyroid. I was almost borderline diabetic. Stress does that to you. And I remember I used to take breaks so that I could press my hands and my feet because I had water retention in my feet. But I still used to work. I remember I was hospitalized when I was doing my couture show. And the doctor told me that you cannot leave the hospital. I went to Delhi on a wheelchair because Rani was coming. I went for the show. I came back and I checked myself back in the hotel. I got myself checked into a private suite. My assistants would come in and we do music recording through my bed. And take a commitment of doing something. There is no excuse. People don't care about what happened, why it happened. All they care about is the result.
Well, we see that in your work, Priya. Tanna, thank you for coming. Before you go, tell me, are you really the Anna Wintour of Indian fashion journalism?
I am the summer and the spring.
Well, whatever you're doing a fantastic job. Vogue is a shining star. And till you're there, we know it's also going to be the brightest one. Thank you, Priya Tanna.
I have to only say something. The reason I could not guess, because Priya is far from the devil. She feeds you, she mothers you. And, I could not think of who would be Anna Wintour.
I threw you off with that
India's
one, I
leading
admit.
fashion magazine, that was the tell, Sabya. That was the tell.
Yeah, I thought you were. But
listen, I love you guys, and I leave you all with lots of love and have a great session. And
Thank you.
reach out to both of you all soon. Lots of love. Thank you, Jamal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sabya.
Bye. Bye, Priya. Thank you. Wow. Did we bring in an editor, Sabya, and give you a little bit of a scare there?
Not really. I'm just surprised with infamous googlies.
That's fine. Now, Sabya, on a recent chat show with Vicky Oberoi and Chiki Sarkar for Business Insider, you said luxury is being able to wear your traditions. What did you mean by that?
You see, if you ask a person, what is luxury when it comes to clothing, I would always say it's confidence.
Yes.
Because it's confidence and comfort. And because only when you're confident and you're comfortable if fashion is supposed to help you put your best foot forward, you look your best and you feel your best and you behave your best when you're in clothing that gives you a sense of self-identity. You could in the most expensive designer wear from anywhere, but as if it doesn't belong on your skin, you'll
Right.
always feel awkward and uncomfortable.
Correct.
So
Right.
I say that, when you come back home to tradition, you actually come back home to yourself, and
Right.
creating an awareness and a communication and a conversation with yourself, your body, your
Right.
culture, who you are,
Right.
sometimes is the biggest honesty, and
Yes.
that is a sustainable honesty, which is the
Right.
reason I think that, when you marry tradition into your wardrobe,
Yes.
it really is the beginning of luxury, because luxury is not
Right.
really about price points and quality and
Right.
rarity. It really is
Right.
a much deeper understanding of you and what works for
Yes.
you.
Yes. So tradition is great, but you must agree that contemporary may be the key to binding us as a world brand. Just last week on the India Story Continues, we had three young design voices telling us how modern and contemporary did not make us less Indian. It actually made us more palatable for a Western audience. What do you think?
100%. You see what happens for tradition to be relevant. Tradition needs to be dynamic. And if a lot of people think that Sabyasachi is about the mathapatti and the nut and the jhumkas. But listen, we have done gender fluid clothing. We've had
Yes.
models of different shapes and sizes. We
Yes.
embrace volatile sexuality, which sometimes in mainstream India is a no-no. We talk about everything
Correct.
under the earth. And I,
Yes.
you know, I have seen women who wear saris and run
Yes.
marathons. I have seen women
Yes.
who wear saris and they go to work. I've seen my
Yes.
grandmother wearing a sari, getting out of bed like she never went to sleep. And
Right.
I just think that, we box tradition in a very strange way. I don't
Yes.
think I don't think tradition needs to be modernized. What
Right.
needs to be modernized is the way you look at it, your perception about it.
Right.
So you don't need to modify or change a sari. You just need to change the way you wear it, or the way you approach it, or the way you accept it.
Right, right. Well, that's a great answer. Sabya, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sabyasachi means multitasker. It's an interpretation of Arjuna, who used the bow and arrow with both his hands simultaneously. You two today are far more than a fashion designer. You have jewelry, interiors. What more is to follow? How much more is to follow?
A lot more. Listen, Jamal, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm a curious man, and I think, I just regret that I have only one life has been given to me, and there are a lot of things that I will do on my own, but things that I don't do, I will do with smart collaborations.
Right. Well, we look forward to all of that. You keep us guessing, and I know there is a lot more to come. I want to sit with you one on one someday and have a chat about all of that. Uh, Sabia, let's talk a little bit about the importance of having a muse. After your friend Koina, it was Vidya Balan, Tabu for a while, but down the years, none of these faces remind us of Sabyasachi. Instead, when any actress wears a Sabyasachi garment, it reminds us of you. How did you manage to not get overpowered by the most beautiful faces in the country?
Uh, you know, dare I say this without sounding arrogant, that when you create a brand with with a very strong vision and a very strong
Yes,
visual language, people want to be a part of it. I remember Ranveer Singh, when he dressed up for his wedding, he looks at me and he says, "Do I look like your campaign boy now?" So I started, and
yeah, yeah,
there are times when I've got relentless criticism on social media for actresses center
yes,
part in their hair, wearing flowers and wearing a small bindi, and they say that
yes,
I'm sure Sabyasachi does not give them clothes unless they sign a document or a mandate that they have to be dressed like this. And Jamal, the industry, we give our clothes to stylists. Sometimes we don't even talk to these actresses. We don't even know where they are wearing it, when they are wearing it, why they are wearing it.
yes, yes,
But they all do the Sabyasachi look. And we have had all different kinds of girls getting married in our clothes, from Soha Ali to Bipasha to Priyanka to Deepika to Vidya to Rani. They are all diverse
yes,
actors. And
absolutely.
I mean, you know, I see a very unique phenomenon that happens with us. When I go to the Chanel stores, I see a
Yes,
lot of women wearing Chanel and going to Chanel to buy Chanel because they like to be a part of the belief system. I see the
Right.
same thing happening in India. I see women wearing Sabyasachi and coming to our stores to shop for Sabyasachi. I think
Right.
somewhere behind that repetition that we have
Yes.
done, for which we have got
Yes.
severely criticized, has paid off. Because
Yes.
you cannot create iconism by being different every day. You need to create iconism by being consistent.
Correct. And that consistency absolutely has paid off. I'm going to just leave it at the fact that you've managed to create what few others have in India before. So, congratulations, Sabyasachi. Talking of muses, we now have our next surprise guest for you, Sabya. And we'd like you to guess her name again. Your clue is this. On Instagram last week, Preeti Paul put out a video of her celebrating all that's Bengal. Now, I made it really easy. In the face of saying you don't really have one muse, here's a lady who we know has inspired you down the ages. Can you guess who she is?
I think she's the most beautiful woman in this country. And
In,
hello, Indrani, wherever you are, pop into the screen.
Welcome, Indrani Gupta Paul. What a beautiful video Preeti put out last week. Thank you for being here today.
Preeti has a way with words and really unleashing the Bengal tiger in every way.
And congratulations on being the forever Sabyasachi girl. Do you think of yourself that way, Indrani?
No, but I mean, I think Sabya can answer that better. But of course, we've worked for many, many years now. I think close to 20 years. We both started at the same time, our careers, and it's been amazing. We've done some really great projects together, and I think the first time, there was a connect when we met. But I think Sabya, the first project we did was for Lakme for Free Spirit. I think when we spent hours and days together, and I think that's really when we bonded. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Sabya's been dressing me for all my important and not so important days. So it's a pleasure. And there's
Sabya, you
something
may say
about, I think,
yes.
wearing a
Yes,
Sabya, right? As he said,
correct. Absolutely.
become part of the story. You
Yes.
become the story, which is what his clothes
Yes.
do for me all the time.
Right. Sabya, you may say no muse, but Indrani is really special to you, isn't she?
No, she's absolutely a muse. And I'll tell you something, very few people have the power to intimidate me, like Indrani does intimidate me, because you see, she's articulate, she's intelligent, she's a fearsome Bengali, because she has an opinion about everything, and she doesn't use words. And if she doesn't like something, she'll tell you on your face. And I like that honesty about her. And like I said, that I haven't met a more beautiful woman in my lifetime.
Oh, thank you.
Does either of you remember the first time you ever met?
I remember it was Sabya's first show. It was not his graduating show, but his first show as part of Fashion Week in when it used to be the India Fashion Week, Lakme India Fashion Week.
Right.
And here he was, this young talent, and we models have seen designers, but when we tried his clothes, we saw his clothes, and we knew here was someone who was very special, special talent. And over the years, I think one meets enough people with talent, but as he said, the conviction of the vision that he's had, is unwavering over the last 20 years. You can trace back his shows, his clothes, his campaigns, and there's a story and there's a thread that continuously evolves that story. So I
Right.
think that's what has been really special, and I think that was pretty evident from the first show he did for us, that we did
Right.
together.
Right. Fantastic words. Indrani Dasgupta Paul, do you have a question for Sabyasachi Mukherjee that you've never asked him before?
No, I don't think it's not something we've not discussed before, but I think it's a ever-changing perspective that he has. What is it about women that you think, that the insight that you've had from day one, that has given you this conviction about what the clothes you make, the styling that you do? What is it? Is it a gift, or is it by keen observation? How do you get it, what women want?
Indrani, in this country especially, and I'm not making it into a sexist dialogue, or I'm not going pro-feminism, but I think sometimes it's very difficult for a man with a male gaze to design for a woman, which is one of the reasons that, like, some of the most admired designers that I see in worldwide are all women, because I think women make great women's wear designer. And I have been a good designer because I've always surrounded myself with women. My best friends are all women. I talk to them all the time. Most of my staff are women, and I think what women want is a certain kind of, the first thing that women want is respect. They don't want to look beautiful. They don't want to look a certain way. The first thing that they want is, their clothing should elevate who they are. And in India, I've seen women struggle for respect in this country because, we still live in a very stifled patriarchy. And 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 when I look at, and I've spoken to many women, and I think, being a man, I'm telling you today, I find it very, very difficult to work or design for a woman because I'm constantly asking women, do you think this will work for you? Do you like this? Can you please wear? Like, I'll tell you, Jamal, I launched my Calcutta bag, and the
Right.
first bag was given to Indrani, and she used it and she found a flaw, and she said, can you please rectify that? Because it's a handbag for a woman. I don't know what a woman is going to put
Wow.
inside. I can only imagine.
Right.
But she
Right.
has to. I think one of the reasons, Indrani, I have been a successful designer is because I've always listened to women.
You're a listener. Yes, you listen to your consumers. That is a fantastic quality. I've never really heard that from a designer. Have you, Indrani?
No, I think along with that quality, the other more important quality is that he never forgets. If he's heard something, I
Ah,
could have told him many years ago, and he still keeps bringing it up. Is that Sabya has
yes,
an amazing memory and he won't
yes,
forget. So I
yes.
think that is definitely the more powerful skill that he has
Well,
than the listening part.
thank you for coming on, Indrani. Thank you for helping us discover that, and thank you also for waiting patiently in the back room
Not at all, my
to
pleasure.
ensure that this surprise remained a surprise. We all owe you a big one for this. Thank you,
Well,
Indrani.
surprise.
And
Great. I'll
Indrani,
wish you
Shubha
guys
Ashtami,
Shubho
Shubha Ashtami.
Ashtami, and happy pujas to all of you, whoever's listening. Okay, bye.
Thank
Lots of
you.
love.
Thank you so much for
Enjoy.
coming. Sabya, we have spoken a lot about your work. Why is so little known about your private life?
Because I think my private life has got nothing to do with what I do, and I like to keep it private because you see, there are different kinds of people. I've always had a lot of problem with my fame because, I enjoy my work, Jamal. You put
Yes,
me in a factory 20
yes,
hours a day, I feel like a
yes,
young man.
yes,
But you put me in a party with 50 people, I don't know what to say. I don't even know my fork from my spoon.
right,
And I think very often
yes,
we we mix up private and our professional life. And I had told this very famously in many interviews that if
yes,
I need to sell myself to sell my clothes, I'd rather not
yes.
sell my clothes at all.
Right. Well, we need to respect that. And I'm not one to prod, but I must ask you this. Is there any one woman or man you go to when you're feeling down and out?
My
And who, sorry,
my
your
father,
father?
father.
Yes.
He's
And
my
who is
biggest,
that person sorry, go on. Yes.
he's my biggest hero, my father.
Is your biggest hero. And who is that person you go to when you've gotten some good news?
Well, I go to my sister and I go to my friend Meeta.
Ah, okay. So, well, I met your sister, and I think she's a wonderful person. I think she needs to be a little less shy, though, and I'd love to have had her here today. But I hope to do an interview with both of you together someday. Um,
Wonderful.
uh, Sabya, since this is the festive edit, we cannot not talk about the pujas. Tell us your special thing to do during the pujas in Calcutta.
So Jamal, there used to be a fair that used to happen in a small park outside my house called Triangular Park.
Right?
I used to love watching these magic shows, which were traditional magic shows. I used to
Yes.
love being on the Ferris wheel. I used to
Right.
love having cotton candy
Yes.
and put,
Right.
you know,
Right.
for a lot of people, I'm not very religious, so for
Right.
a lot of people, pujas was about festivity. For me, it
Right.
was about eating street food.
Right, right. Well, what beautiful memories. I hope you have a great puja this year, though it's a bit muted this year. Before we go, what is the Sabya way forward? A boutique on New York's Fifth Avenue, perhaps?
Well, Fifth Avenue, I don't think I can afford at this point of time, but we have a beautiful store coming up in New York. We had to delay it. I think it's going to now open on the spring of 2022, and
Right,
because of the pandemic, I couldn't travel, and I live with my parents for 70 years old, so I'm not really stepping out right now. So, once it's safe to travel, I'll go and build the most beautiful store that India can be proud of.
Well, we're waiting and watching and we're cheering you on. With that, Sabya, we'll bring our festive edit to an end. You are an important part of the India story. And while we're sure we'll see you at the event when it happens, we hope you continue making us proud, taking our tradition, culture, color, and designs, and wowing the rest of the world. Any last words before we call it an afternoon?
Well, I would like to tell everybody that, while you're celebrating your pujas, please, please, please exercise caution and be a little safe. Let your celebrations not be somebody else's suffering. Please be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabya. On behalf of Madhu Nyotia and the entire team of the India Story, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for the very special sign-off episode you allowed us to have. And for those of you watching, before we bring today's festive edit to a close, here are a few special glimpses of the last 10 bumper episodes. Enjoy.
Thank you, Jamal.
With me today are two people who you really logged on to see, Sandeep Khosla and Raj Mehtani. Welcome. 74th Independence Day of our country. This is the first episode of the first season of the India Story continues. 34 years of Abu Jani Sandeep Khosla. That is the surprise, ladies and gentlemen.
I cannot believe you've done this, Jamal, in Goa to make me the most fabulous looking kid. I cannot believe it.
So tell us, Pratik Kuhar, was your heart broken or did you break someone's heart?
I don't know. Whole mess pretty much came from a breakup.
You've said that the best way to get over a breakup is to cry and cry and cry and then go and date someone else.
Yeah, I cry a lot. I find crying very therapeutic.
But Tiwari, you were a senior editor at Vogue for over 13 years, an opinion leader in the world of fashion and lifestyle, and a person who has never shied away from standing up against the tide.
The sari is a perfect example. We never throw away a sari. We pass it down. They are hand woven. I mean, what could be a better metaphor for sustainability from India than the sari? So we need to take ownership again.
Radhika has been a dear family friend for generations from both sides, Vankane and Baroda. But she's also one of the most gracious and the most beautiful. And I've been to many exhibitions around the world. But what Madhu and Team India Story does is quite exceptional.
Radhika, everybody is seeing you as the icon of the beautiful Maharani, living in the world's largest private residence. So just tell me, what is it like?
It's beautiful. I love living here and I'm blessed to be living here. But it also comes with its own set of problems. You see, when you have a house this size, those are the few little issues that we have. अगर चाय आ रही है तो by the time it reaches you ठंडी हो जाती है कई बार.
Hey guys, I am Malishka and I am really honored and super excited to be your host for this evening. She's called Malvika, Urf Mally, that's her stage name, and she's a young, independent, beautiful artist, and I'm sure you've heard of her. Malvika, aka Mally, hey. What did it feel like when A.R. Rahman tweeted?
I mean, growing up in Chennai, the 90s especially, like A.R. Rahman's music was everywhere.
So what are we going to be making today?
A Birbal ki khichdi, rich in history and simple khichdi.
Right. I had to shatter stereotypes, had to break a person's mindset and fear around Indian cooking, but the rest was easy. I was going back into time. So the New York Times in one of their reviews wrote, "Food so old, it's fresh."
How important are views or impressions, as they call it in the digital age, important for a song?
I don't believe that somehow. I feel if people listen to your music and they like your music, they will stream it anyway.
I totally agree with Slim. As you correctly said, there are songs which are not doing well on YouTube at all. But on streaming, there are some great numbers. So there is an audio value to it also, which people are enjoying.
I think whatever we do, that's one thing which I've learned, and it's a very, very Gandhian idea. The process should be inclusive, process should be able to create more employment, and the product is born.
On screen with me, we have with us the wordsmiths of Bollywood. Lyricists, songwriters, music directors, stand-up comics, dialogue and screenwriters, even actors. Swanand Kirkire, Kaur Munir and Varun Grover, welcome.
तू किसी रेल सी गुजरती है, मैं किसी पुल सा थरथराता हूँ.
Masaba, Masaba. Masaba Gupta, you are a designer, you are an actor, or are you just the symbol of strength every young girl aspires to be? Your determination, talent, and resilience stands its own.
I wouldn't say, I would also say this, that I think all of those experiences, the tough childhood, all of that, the scarring just made me who I am today. I don't think I'd have such a good story to tell otherwise. I'd be quite a bore, and there would be just one Masaba, not two. So I think it's all worked out.
Beautiful moments, aren't they? Remember, even if you missed any of these episodes earlier, you could log on to www.theindiastory.in and watch them at your convenience. This, ladies and gentlemen, may be the end of a season, but it's also the start of another, that of festivities, joy, and happiness. We wish you a happy Pujo, happy Dasera, and the season's best. We will be back soon, but until then, do remember that in our hearts, the India story will always continue.